and had been working as a translator on Space Station Orion 7 for 3 years. It was not a glamorous job. Most days, he sat in a small office and helped alien traders talk to human merchants. He translated simple things like prices, shipping dates, and complaints about broken goods. Nothing exciting ever happened. Until today. The morning started like any other. Woke up in his tiny room, ate breakfast from a plastic container, and walked to the translation center. The station was busy as always. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved through the corridors. Some were tall and thin. Some were short and round. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Had seen them all. He checked his schedule on the computer screen. There was only one appointment for the day, a diplomatic meeting between the delegation and the Earth Trade Council. Frowned. Diplomatic meetings were always long and boring. Lots of formal words, lots of bowing, lots of waiting. But this meeting paid well, very well. They were one of the most respected species in the galaxy. They were known for their advanced technology and their strict customs. Everything they did had rules: how to speak, how to stand, how to eat. Had studied their language for 2 years before coming to the station. He was one of only 12 humans who could speak it fluently. He put on his best jacket and walked to meeting room 7. The room was large and white, with a long table in the center. On one side sat the Earth Trade Council, 3 men and 2 women in gray suits. They looked nervous. On the other side sat the delegation. Stopped at the door. He had met before. They were tall beings with silver skin and large dark eyes. Their hair was white and flowed like water. They moved slowly and spoke softly. They were elegant in a way that made most other species look clumsy. But had never seen a like the one sitting at the center of the delegation. She was young, maybe the same age as him in human years. Her silver skin seemed to glow under the lights. Her eyes were not just dark. They were deep, like looking into a night sky full of stars. Her white hair fell past her shoulders in gentle waves. She wore a blue robe that shimmered when she moved. Realized he was starring. He quickly looked away and walked to his seat at the end of the table. The meeting began. The leader of the delegation was an older male named Elder. He spoke in the formal style, using long sentences and careful pauses. Translated everything into English for the Trade Council. Then he translated the council's responses back into. It was slow work, but was good at it. He kept his voice calm and his words precise. The valued precision above all things. The young female did not speak. She sat quietly and watched the meeting. Sometimes she looked at the humans with curiosity. Sometimes she looked at. Each time their eyes met, felt something strange in his chest, like his heart was beating too fast. He told himself to focus. This was an important meeting. He could not afford to make mistakes. The meeting went on for 2 hours. They discussed trade routes, shipping agreements, and technology exchanges. It was exactly as boring as had expected, but he did his job well. Elder seemed pleased with his translation. Finally, they reached the last topic, a cultural exchange program. They wanted to send some of their young people to human schools. The Trade Council wanted to send human students to academies. Everyone agreed it was a good idea. Elder turned to the young female beside him. He spoke in. "My daughter will speak on behalf of our young people." Translated this into English. The Trade Council nodded politely. The young female stood up. She was tall, even for a. She clasped her hands in front of her and began to speak. Her voice was soft but clear. She talked about the importance of understanding between species. She talked about the future of cooperation. She talked about hope. Translated every word, but he found it hard to concentrate. Her voice was like music. Her movements were graceful. When she spoke, the whole room seemed to listen. She finished her speech and looked at. She was waiting for him to translate the final part. Opened his mouth, and then something went wrong. In the language, there were many words that sounded alike. The word for important sounded very similar to the word for beautiful. It was a common mistake for human learners, had made this mistake before in practice, but never in a real meeting. He meant to say, the speaker believes this program is very important. What he actually said was, the speaker is very beautiful. The room went silent. Realized his mistake immediately. His face turned red. He opened his mouth to correct himself, but no words came out. The trade council members looked confused. They did not understand. They did not know what had happened. But the delegation knew. Elder's eyes went wide. The other members looked at each other in shock. Some of them whispered behind their hands. And the young female, Elder's daughter, did something did not expect. Her silver skin began to change color. It shifted from silver to a soft violet, starting at her cheeks and spreading across her face. She was blushing, had never seen a blush before. He did not even know they could. She stared at him. Her dark eyes were wide, her lips parted slightly. Then she spoke. Her voice was barely a whisper, but in the silent room everyone heard her. "Say it again, human." Felt like the floor had disappeared beneath him. He did not understand what was happening. He looked at Elder for help. The old's face was unreadable. I am sorry," said In. "I made a mistake. I meant to say important, not beautiful. Please forgive me." But the young female shook her head slowly. The violet color on her skin grew deeper. "You spoke the word," she said. "In front of witnesses, you cannot take it back." His heart was pounding now. "I do not understand. It was just a translation error." Elder finally spoke. His voice was cold. "In culture, to call someone beautiful is not a simple compliment, young human. It is a declaration, a promise. It is the first step of the bonding ritual." Felt all the blood drain from his face. Bonding ritual. What you would call marriage. The word hit like a punch to the stomach. Marriage. He had accidentally proposed marriage to the daughter of an elder, just because he mixed up two similar words. "That cannot be right," said. His voice was shaking. "I did not mean it. It was an accident." "Intent does not matter," Elder said. "The words were spoken. The ritual has begun. According to our law, you must now complete the bonding trials, or you will bring great shame upon my daughter." Looked at the young female. She was still watching him. The violet blush had not faded from her skin. He expected to see anger in her eyes, or embarrassment, or disgust. But instead he saw something else, something that looked almost like hope. "I am Vila," she said softly, "daughter of Elder, and you have called me beautiful." Did not know what to say. He had made many mistakes in his life. He had said wrong words and done wrong things. But this was different. This was on a level he could not have imagined. What are the bonding trials?" he asked. Elder stood up. The meeting was clearly over now. The trade council members were whispering to each other, completely lost. "You will learn," Elder said. "Tomorrow you will come to our ship. There you will face the 3 trials. If you succeed, you may bond with my daughter. If you fail," he paused. "You do not want to fail." He turned and walked toward the door. The other followed him. Only Vila remained for a moment. She stepped closer too, close enough that he could see the stars in her eyes. "Most males of my species would never dare speak that word to me," she said quietly. "They are too afraid of my father, too afraid of failing the trials, but you spoke it without fear." "I spoke it by accident," said weakly. Vila smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it changed her whole face. She looked less like an elegant diplomat and more like a young woman who had just heard something wonderful. "Perhaps," she said, "or perhaps your heart knew the word before your mind did." She turned and followed her father out of the room. Stood alone at the table. The trade council members were asking him questions, but he could not hear them. His mind was spinning. He had come to work today expecting a boring meeting. Now he was engaged to an alien princess and had to complete 3 mysterious trials by tomorrow. He sat down heavily in his chair and put his head in his hands. This was not how he had planned to spend his week. One of the trade council members, an older woman named Director Park, finally got his attention. "Mr. Han, what just happened? Why did they leave so suddenly?" Looked up at her. How could he explain this? "I made a translation error," he said simply. "Is it serious? Did you offend them?" Laughed. It was not a happy laugh. You could say that. Director Park frowned. "How bad is it? Can we fix it?" Thought about Vila's face, the violet blush on her silver skin, the hope in her dark eyes, the way she had asked him to say it again. "I do not know," he said honestly, "but I have to try." He stood up and walked out of the meeting room. He needed to find information about the bonding trials. He needed to understand what he was facing. But as he walked through the corridors of the station, one thought kept returning to his mind. When he had called Vila beautiful, he had not been wrong. It was a translation error, yes, but it was also the truth. She was the most beautiful being he had ever seen. And tomorrow he would have to prove himself worthy of her, or bring shame upon them both. Walked faster. He had a lot of studying to do. Did not sleep that night. He sat in his small room surrounded by data tablets and books about culture. The station library had everything he needed: history, customs, rituals. He read until his eyes burned. He read until the words started to blur together. The bonding ritual was ancient. It had existed for thousands of years, long before they had discovered space travel. In the old times, males would compete for females through displays of strength and courage. The 3 trials were tests of body, mind, and heart. But the books did not say what the trials actually were. Each family had their own version. Each trial was different depending on who was being tested. The only thing that was certain was this: failure meant shame. Deep, lasting shame that would follow both people for the rest of their lives. Put down the tablet and rubbed his tired eyes. He was a translator. He sat at a desk and spoke words. He was not a warrior. He was not a hero. He was just a normal human who had made a terrible mistake. But there was no way out. The words had been spoken. The ritual had begun. He had to face the trials or destroy Vila's reputation forever. Vila. He thought about her face, the way her silver skin had turned violet when she blushed, the soft way she had said his species name, human, the hope in her dark eyes. Why had she looked hopeful? Did she actually want him to succeed? That seemed impossible. She was the daughter of an elder, one of the most important families in society. He was nobody, a translator on a space station. Why would she want to be bonded to him? A knock on his door made him jump. Checked the time. It was very early in the morning. Who would visit at this hour? He opened the door and found a small standing in the corridor. It was a young male, perhaps a teenager in human terms. He wore simple gray robes and carried a silver case. Han, the young asked. Yes. I am. I serve Elder's household. I have been sent to prepare you for the trials. Blinked. Prepare me how? Walked into the room without being invited. He looked around at the mess of books and tablets with a slight frown. You have been studying, he said. Good, that shows respect, but books will not help you now. He placed the silver case on its bed and opened it. Inside were clothes, a white robe similar to what the delegation had worn, but simpler. There were also soft white shoes and a silver belt. You will wear these for the trials, said. White is the color of new beginnings. It shows you come with pure intentions. Picked up the robe. The fabric was soft and light. It felt like wearing a cloud. What are the trials? He asked. No one will tell me what I have to do. His face remained calm. I cannot tell you either. It is forbidden. You must face each trial without preparation. That is how your true self is tested. That does not seem fair. Life is not fair, said simply. But I can tell you this. The trials are not designed to destroy you. They are designed to reveal you. Elder does not care if you are strong or weak. He cares about who you really are. Thought about this, and if who I really am is not good enough. Was quiet for a moment, then he spoke more softly. Lady Vila asked me to give you a message. His heart beat faster. What message? She said, do not pretend to be something you are not. The trials will see through any lie. Be yourself and that will be enough. Did not know how to respond. He barely knew Vila. They had spoken only a few words to each other, yet she was sending him messages of encouragement. She was trying to help him. Why? Asked. Why does she care if I succeed or fail? Looked at him with an expression could not read. Lady Vila is different from other. She has always been curious about other species. She reads human books. She watches human entertainment. She dreams of understanding your people. But that does not explain why she wants me to succeed. Does it not? Smiled slightly. A human called her beautiful, not out of duty or politics, not because he wanted something from her. It was an accident, yes, but accidents reveal truth. When you had no time to think, no time to plan, the word that came from your mouth was beautiful. Felt his face grow warm. I was just confused. I mixed up similar words. Perhaps, or perhaps as Lady Vila believes, your heart spoke before your mind could stop it. Picked up the empty case. Get dressed. The shuttle to our ship leaves in 1 hour. He walked to the door, then paused. One more thing, Han, my people are proud. We are strong. We are advanced. But we have forgotten something that humans still remember. What is that? How to feel. How to love without rules and rituals. How to speak from the heart without fear. Opened the door. Lady Vila has been waiting her whole life to meet someone who could teach her that. Do not disappoint her. He left. Stood alone in his room holding the white robe. His hands were trembling. He had expected anger from the coldness, disgust. Instead, he was getting hope and encouragement. It did not make sense. But there was no time to think. He had 1 hour. Changed into the white robes. They fit perfectly. He looked at himself in the small mirror on his wall. The white fabric made his dark hair and eyes stand out. He looked strange, different, almost like someone who belonged in a story. He took a deep breath. Then he left his room and walked toward the shuttle bay. The station was quiet at this hour. Only a few workers moved through the corridors preparing for the day. They stared at as he passed. He supposed he did look unusual. A human in robes was not something you saw every day. The shuttle was waiting at Bay 12. It was a vessel, sleek and silver, shaped like a teardrop. 2 guards stood at the entrance. They nodded at and stepped aside. Inside, the shuttle was simple but elegant. White seats lined the walls. Soft light came from panels in the ceiling. Sat down and waited. A few minutes later, the shuttle launched. Through the small window, watched space station Orion 7 grow smaller and smaller. Ahead, the flagship grew larger. The ship was enormous. It was shaped like a crescent moon, with lights glowing along its entire length. Had seen pictures of ships before, but seeing one up close was different. It was beautiful. Like everything they made, it was beautiful. The shuttle docked at the bottom of the ship. The doors opened and stepped out into a long white corridor. 2 guards were waiting for him. Follow us, one of them said. They walked through the ship. Every corridor looked the same. White walls, white floors, soft white light. Tried to memorize the path, but he quickly became lost. The ship was like a maze. Finally, they reached a large circular room. The walls were lined with hundreds of them standing in rows, watching silently. In the center of the room was an open space. At the far end stood Elder, dressed in dark blue robes. And beside him stood Vila. She was wearing a white robe likes. Her silver skin seemed to glow in the light. Her white hair was pulled back from her face. When she saw, her eyes widened slightly. The violet blush began to appear on her cheeks again. Walked to the center of the room. He could feel hundreds of eyes on him. His heart was pounding, but he kept his face calm. He stopped a few meters from Elder and bowed deeply, the way he had learned from the books. Elder studied him for a long moment. His face showed nothing. "Han," he said finally, "you stand before the Council of Bonds. You have spoken the word of beauty to my daughter, Vila of the Line. By our ancient law, you must now complete the 3 trials. Do you understand?" "I understand," said. His voice was steady, even though his stomach was churning. "The trials will test your body, your mind, and your heart. If you fail any trial, you will leave this ship in shame. My daughter's name will be spoken with pity for 100 years. Is this what you want?" "No," said firmly. "Then you accept the trials." Looked at Vila. She was watching him with those deep, starry eyes. Her hands were clasped in front of her, fingers gripping tightly. She was nervous, he realized, just as nervous as he was. He turned back to Elder. "I accept." A murmur went through the crowd. Elder raised his hand and silence fell. "The first trial is the trial of body," he announced. "It tests strength, endurance, and courage. Many have failed this trial, many have been broken by it." Felt a chill run down his spine. Strength and endurance were not his best qualities. He was not weak, but he was not a warrior either. How could he compete with who were taller and stronger than humans? But he had no choice. He had accepted the trials. He had to face whatever came. Elder gestured to the side of the room. A door opened and 2 warriors walked out. They were huge, the biggest had ever seen. Their muscles showed through their tight robes. Their faces were hard and cold. "You will fight," Elder said. "Not with weapons, not with tricks, just your bodies. You must last until the bell rings. If you fall and do not rise, you fail." Stared at the warriors. They were twice his size. They looked like they could break him in half without trying. He heard a small sound from Vila. When he looked at her, he saw fear in her eyes. She was afraid for him. That fear, strangely, gave him strength. He was not fighting for himself. He was fighting for her reputation, for her future. He could not let her down. Took off his outer robe, leaving just the simple white shirt beneath. He stepped into the fighting circle and raised his hands. The first warrior smiled coldly. He stepped forward. And the trial began. They did not hold back. He swung his fist with incredible speed, barely dodged in time. The wind from the punch brushed his face. Was smaller, but he was faster. He had learned some basic fighting from the station security guards. Not much, but enough to know how to move. He ducked under another punch. He rolled to the side. He did not try to fight back. He knew he could not hurt these warriors. His only goal was to survive. The second warrior joined the attack. Now was facing 2 of them at once. Fists came at him from both sides. He blocked some. He dodged others. Some hit him. Pain exploded in his shoulder, in his ribs, in his leg. Each hit felt like being struck by a hammer, but he did not fall. He refused to fall. Time seemed to stretch forever. Every second felt like an hour. His body screamed with pain. His lungs burned. His vision blurred. But he kept moving. He kept dodging. He kept fighting. And then finally, a bell rang. The warriors stopped immediately. They stepped back and bowed too. Stood in the center of the circle, breathing hard. His body was covered in bruises. Blood dripped from a cut on his lip. His legs were shaking. But he was still standing. The crowd was silent. Then slowly a sound began. It was the version of applause, soft clicks of their fingers against their palms. Elder's face showed surprise. "You survived the trial of body," he said slowly. "This is unexpected." Wiped the blood from his lip. "What is the second trial?" Elder stared at him. For the first time, there was something like respect in his eyes. "The second trial is tomorrow. Rest now. You have earned it." Guards came to lead away. But before he left, he looked one more time at Vila. She was smiling. The violet blush was bright on her cheeks, and in her eyes the hope had grown stronger. smiled back despite the pain. Then he let the guards lead him away. One trial down, 2 to go. Woke up to pain. Every part of his body hurt. His shoulder, his ribs, his legs, even breathing hurt. He lay in a soft bed in a small white room, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he could even stand. The door opened. Walked in, carrying a tray with food and medicine. "You are awake," he said. "Good. I was worried you might sleep through the second trial." Tried to laugh, but it came out as a groan. "What time is it?" "Late afternoon. The second trial begins in 2 hours. Set the tray on a table beside the bed. You need to eat and take this medicine. It will help with the pain." Forced himself to sit up. It took all his strength. He looked at his arms and saw purple bruises covering his skin. He probably looked terrible. "How bad is it?" he asked. Examined him with a clinical eye. 2 cracked ribs, many bruises, some small cuts, nothing permanent. The warriors held back more than you realize. They held back, could not believe it. It felt like they were trying to kill me. If they were trying to kill you, you would be dead. They were testing your spirit, not your strength, and you passed. Handed him the medicine. "Drink this, all of it." The medicine tasted bitter, but drank it. Within minutes, the pain began to fade. It did not disappear completely, but it became manageable. He ate the food on the tray, some kind of fruit he did not recognize and soft bread that melted on his tongue. It was delicious. They knew how to cook. "What is the second trial?" asked between bites. "The trial of mind," said. "I cannot tell you more, but I can say this. It is very different from the first trial. Strength will not help you here, only your thinking." Nodded slowly. A mental challenge, that was better. He was not strong, but he was smart. At least he hoped he was smart enough. "How is Vila?" he asked. His expression softened. "She has been asking about you every hour. She wanted to visit, but her father forbid it. Contact between you is not allowed until the trials are complete. But she is well. She is worried and hopeful and perhaps something more." Collected the empty tray. "I have never seen her like this. She usually does not show emotion. But when she talks about you, her eyes become bright. It is interesting." Did not know what to say. He barely knew Vila. They had exchanged only a few words, yet there was something between them, something that had started with a single mistaken word and was growing into something larger. "Tell her I am fine," said. "Tell her I will not fail." Smiled. "I will tell her. Now rest. You have 1 hour before the trial begins." He left and lay back on the bed. He tried to prepare his mind. What kind of mental challenge would they create? Logic puzzles, memory tests, strategic games. He would find out soon enough. An hour later, the guards came to escort him to the trial chamber. Walked slowly, his body still stiff from the beating he had taken yesterday. But the medicine helped. He could move. He could think. That was all he needed. The trial chamber was different from before. Instead of a large open room, it was a smaller space with curved walls. In the center was a table with 2 chairs facing each other. On the table was a board made of crystal, with strange markings carved into its surface. The room was not filled with spectators this time. Only Elder, Vila, and a few council members stood along the walls. The atmosphere was quieter, more serious. Elder gestured to one of the chairs. "Sit." Sat. The chair was surprisingly comfortable. "The trial of mind tests intelligence, wisdom, and understanding," Elder explained. "You will play the game of paths. Are you familiar with it?" Looked at the board. He had seen something like it in his studies last night. It was similar to chess, but more complex. The pieces moved in 3 dimensions instead of 2. The rules changed as the game progressed. It was considered one of the most difficult games in the galaxy. "I have read about it," said carefully, "but I have never played." Elder's eyes narrowed. "Never played? Then you are at a great disadvantage. Your opponent has played this game since childhood." A figure stepped forward from the shadows. It was another young, a male about Vila's age. He was tall and handsome, with silver skin and cold eyes. He sat in the chair across from with a confident smile. "I am of the high houses," he said. "Champion of paths for 3 years running, you will not beat me, human." Studied his opponent, was not just confident, he was arrogant. He believed he had already won. "We shall see," said quietly. Elder raised his hand. "The rules are simple. You will play one game. The winner of the game wins the trial. There is no time limit. Begin." Made the first move. His piece slid across the board with practiced precision. He did not even need to think. He knew exactly what he was doing. Studied the board. The markings made sense now that he could see them up close. Each piece had different movements. Each position had different value. The goal was to trap your opponent's central piece while protecting your own. He made his move. It was slow and uncertain. He did not know the strategies. He did not know the tricks. He was learning the game as he played it. Smiled. "You are worse than I expected. This will be quick." The game continued. Moved with speed and confidence. Moved slowly, thinking about each piece, trying to understand the patterns. He made mistakes. Captured several of his pieces. The council members whispered to each other. Even Elder looked disappointed. But did not give up. He kept watching, kept learning, kept thinking. Humans thought differently then, knew this from his years of translation work. Thinking was logical, structured, predictable. They followed patterns and rules. They valued tradition and established methods. Humans were messier. They made leaps of intuition. They tried unexpected things. They failed often, but sometimes they succeeded in ways no one expected. Was playing the same strategies he always played. The strategies that had won him 3 championships. He expected to play the same way, to follow the same patterns. But did not know the patterns. He could not follow rules he had never learned. Instead, he made moves that made no sense. He sacrificed pieces for no clear reason. He ignored obvious threats. Began to frown. "What are you doing? That move is stupid." "Maybe," said, "but I made it anyway." The game shifted. Was still ahead in pieces, but his confidence was fading. Random moves were disrupting his strategies. He had to think harder, plan deeper, adapt to chaos. And we're not good at chaos. An hour passed, then 2. The crystal board was a mess of scattered pieces. Was sweating now, his silver skin shining under the lights. Was calm. He had nothing to lose. He had expected to fail. Every moment he survived was a victory. Then saw it. A path through the chaos. A series of moves that would not expect because they broke every rule of the game. They were stupid moves, wasteful moves, moves that no trained player would ever make. But they would work. Made the first move, laughed. "You just gave me your defender. What are you thinking?" Did not answer. He made the second move, captured another piece, still laughing. The third move, the fourth, the fifth. Stopped laughing. He stared at the board. His face went pale. "No," he whispered, "that is impossible." Made the sixth move. His central piece slid into position, surrounded by empty spaces. It looked vulnerable. It looked like a mistake. But it was not. Pieces were all in the wrong positions. Every move he could make would open a path for to win. Every defense would create a weakness. He was trapped by his own strategy. "You cannot beat me," said. His voice was shaking. "I am the champion." "Champions lose sometimes," said. "That is how new champions are made." Stared at the board for a long time. Then he reached out and tipped over his central piece, the universal sign of surrender. The room was silent. Elder walked to the table. He looked at the board, studying the final position. His expression was unreadable. "In 300 years of the trial of mind," he said slowly, "no one has ever won with a position like this. It breaks every principle of the game. It should not work." "But it did," said. Elder met his eyes. "Yes, it did." He paused. You did not beat with skill, you beat him by thinking in a way he could not understand. You beat him by being human. Stood up from the chair, his body ached but his mind felt sharp. Is that not the point, to show who I really am? Elder was quiet for a moment. Then, for the first time, he smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it was real. Perhaps I underestimated you, Han. Perhaps all have underestimated humans. Stood up suddenly. His face was red with anger and shame. This proves nothing. He is still weak. He is still unworthy of Lady Vila. That is not for you to decide, Elder said coldly. You lost, accept it with grace. Looked like he wanted to argue, but he held his tongue. He bowed stiffly and left the room. Looked at Vila. She was standing by the wall, her hands pressed against her chest. There were tears in her eyes, but she was smiling. She mouthed 2 words to him, thank you. Wanted to go to her. He wanted to talk to her, to hear her voice, to tell her that he was fighting for more than just tradition now. He was fighting because she mattered to him. But he could not yet. There was still one more trial. Elder seemed to read his thoughts. The 3rd trial is tomorrow, the trial of heart. It is the most difficult of all. What does it test? Asked. It tests the one thing that cannot be learned or practiced. It tests whether your heart is true. Elder walked toward the door. Rest well, Han. You will need all your strength for what comes next. The guards led back to his room. He lay on the bed, exhausted but happy. 2 trials down, 1 to go. But Elder's words echoed in his mind. The trial of heart was the most difficult. It tested something that could not be learned. What did that mean? What would he have to do? And more importantly, was his heart true? Thought about Vila, her silver skin, her starry eyes, her soft voice asking him to say it again. He had called her beautiful by accident. But now, after everything that had happened, he wondered if the accident had revealed something real. He was starting to feel something for her, something beyond attraction, something beyond curiosity. Something that might be the beginning of love. He closed his eyes and tried to sleep. Tomorrow, the truth would be revealed. Tomorrow, he would face the trial of heart. The morning of the 3rd trial arrived too quickly. Woke with a strange feeling in his chest. Not fear, not excitement, something deeper, something he could not name. He dressed in the white robes again. The fabric still felt soft against his skin, but now it also felt familiar, like it belonged to him. Came to escort him to the trial chamber. The young looked different today, quieter, more serious. Is something wrong? Asked. Hesitated. The trial of heart is not like the other trials. It does not test what you can do, it tests who you are. Many who pass the first 2 trials have failed the 3rd. What happens during the trial? I cannot say, but I can tell you this. Stopped walking and faced directly. Whatever you see, whatever you hear, do not lie. The trial will know, and lies will destroy you. Nodded slowly, I understand. They continued walking. The corridors of the ship seemed longer today. The white walls seemed brighter. Everything felt more real, more present. Finally, they reached a door had not seen before. It was not white like the others. It was silver, with strange symbols carved into its surface. The symbols seemed to move when looked at them, shifting and flowing like water. This is as far as I can go, said. You must enter alone. Took a deep breath. Thank you for everything. You have been kind to me. Smiled sadly. I hope to see you again, Han, on the other side of this door. The door slid open. Beyond it was darkness. Stepped through. The door closed behind him. He was surrounded by complete blackness. He could not see his own hands. He could not hear anything except his own breathing. Then a light appeared. It was soft and warm, like sunlight through clouds. It grew brighter until could see where he was. He was standing in a room that looked exactly like his childhood home on Earth. The walls were painted blue. The floor was wooden. There was a small window with white curtains. A shelf held books he remembered reading as a boy. A table had his mother's favorite vase, filled with plastic flowers because real ones were too expensive. His heart ached. He had not been home in 7 years. He had left Earth to find work in space, to send money back to his family, to build a better life. He had missed so much. "This is not real," he said to himself. "It is just a test." "Is it?" The voice came from behind him, turned and saw his mother. She looked exactly as he remembered, small and thin with gray in her black hair, lines around her eyes from years of hard work, hands rough from cleaning and cooking. But her smile was warm. It had always been warm. "Mom," whispered. She walked toward him and took his hands. Her touch felt real, solid, warm. "My son," she said, "you have been gone so long, I miss you every day." Felt tears forming in his eyes. "I miss you too. I wanted to come home, but the work." "I know you have always worked hard, too hard." She squeezed his hands. "But now you have a choice. You can come home, you can be with your family again. All you have to do is walk away." "Walk away from what?" "From this trial, from these aliens, from that girl." His mother's eyes were sad. "She is not your kind, she does not belong in your world. Come home, be with people who love you." Stared at his mother. Part of him wanted to do exactly what she said. He wanted to go home. He wanted to see his family. He wanted to leave all this confusion behind. But he knew this was not real. This was the trial, it was testing him. "You are not my mother," he said quietly. The woman's expression did not change. "Are you sure? Does it matter? I am offering you what you want most. A chance to go home, a chance to be happy." "Happiness is not something you can give me," pulled his hands away gently. "Happiness is something I have to choose for myself." The room began to change. The walls faded. The furniture disappeared. His mother's image flickered and vanished. Was alone in darkness again. Then another light appeared. This time it showed something different. He was standing on Space Station Orion 7 in the corridor outside his office. Everything looked normal. Workers moved past him. Ships docked and departed. Life continued as usual. A familiar figure walked toward him. It was Director Park, the woman from the Trade Council. "Mr. Han," she said with a smile, "I have wonderful news. They have canceled the bonding ritual. You are free." Blinked. "What do you mean canceled?" Elder decided his daughter should marry someone else. A proper. You do not have to complete the trials. You can go back to your normal life. Felt a wave of relief wash over him. No more trials, no more pain, no more pressure. He could return to his small office and his simple job. He could forget all of this. But then he thought of Vila. Her violet blush, her starry eyes, her soft voice asking him to say it again. If the ritual was canceled, what would happen to her? Would she be forced to marry someone she did not choose? Would she lose the hope he had seen in her eyes? "What about Vila?" asked. Director Park shrugged. "What about her? She is not your concern, she is just an alien." Just an alien. The words hit like a slap. He remembered thinking something similar when he first arrived at the station. All the species looked the same to him then. Different colors, different shapes, but all just aliens. But Vila was not just an alien. She was a person, a young woman with dreams and fears and hopes. She had watched him face her father's trials. She had sent him messages of encouragement. She had believed in him when he did not believe in himself. She was not just an alien. She was someone who mattered. "No," said firmly, "I will not walk away from her." Director Park's expression hardened. "You would choose an alien over your own people, over your own future." "I am choosing what is right. I am choosing to keep my word." The station faded. Director Park disappeared. Darkness returned. Stood in the void, waiting. He knew there would be more tests, more temptations, more chances to fail. A third light appeared. This time, found himself standing in a white room. It was empty except for two figures in the center. One was Elder. He stood with his arms crossed, his face cold and stern. The other was Vila. She was on her knees, her head bowed. She looked broken, defeated. Han, Elder said, "You have passed the first two tests of the trial of heart, but this is the final test. What do I have to do?" Elder gestured to his daughter. "You have to choose. You can take Vela as your bonded partner. She will leave her family, her home, her people. She will never see us again. She will live with you among humans, alone and far from everything she knows." Looked at Vila. She did not raise her head. "Or," Elder continued, "you can release her, free her from the bonding ritual. She will stay with her family. She will marry a proper, she will be safe and comfortable, but you will never see her again." The choice was cruel. Either way, someone would suffer. If took Vila, she would lose her family, her culture, her identity. He would be asking her to give up everything for him. If released her, he would lose her forever, and she would be forced into a life she did not choose. There was no good answer, no way to win. "This is not fair," said. "These are not real choices. You are making me choose between hurting her in different ways." Elder's expression did not change. Life is full of unfair choices. This trial tests whether you can face them honestly. Looked at Vila again. She still had not moved, still had not spoken. He walked toward her slowly. He knelt down in front of her. "Vila," he said softly, "look at me." She raised her head. Her eyes were red. Tears streaked her silver cheeks. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I should never have let this happen. You were just a translator. You made a simple mistake. And now you are trapped in our ridiculous traditions." "I am not trapped," said. "I chose to be here. I could have run away. I could have refused the trials, but I did not." "Why?" Her voice broke. "Why would you suffer for someone you do not know?" Was quiet for a moment. He thought about the question carefully. He wanted to give her the true answer, not a pretty answer. "When I first saw you in that meeting room," he said, "I could not look away. Not because you were alien or strange, because you were beautiful. That word came out of my mouth by accident, but it was not a lie." Vila's breath caught. "You do not have to say that. The trial is already testing you." "I know, but I am not saying it because of the trial." Reached out and gently wiped a tear from her cheek. "I am saying it because it is true. You are beautiful, Vila, and I think I am starting to love you." The room went silent. Even Elder's image seemed frozen. Then slowly everything began to fade. The white room, Elder, even Vela, was alone in darkness again. But this time the darkness was warm, comfortable, like being wrapped in a blanket. A voice spoke from everywhere and nowhere. "The trial of heart is complete." Recognized the voice. It was Vila's. "Your heart is true, Han. You chose honesty when lies would have been easier. You chose love when freedom was offered. You chose me when you did not have to." Light flooded the room, covered his eyes. When he looked again, he was back in the trial chamber on the ship. The room was full of, just like on the first day. Elder stood at the front, his face unreadable. The council members whispered among themselves. And Vila stood in the center of the room, waiting for him. She was no longer crying. Her silver skin glowed in the light. Her starry eyes were bright with joy. Walked to her. He did not look at the crowd. He did not look at Elder. He only looked at her. "I passed?" he asked. Vila smiled. That same small smile he had seen on the first day, but now it was bigger, brighter, full of something he recognized. Hope that had become happiness. "You passed," she said. "All 3 trials. You are the first human to ever complete the bonding ritual." Elder stepped forward. His face was still stern, but there was something new in his eyes. Respect. "Han," he said formally, "you have proven your body, your mind, and your heart. By the ancient laws of you have earned the right to bond with my daughter." The crowd was silent. They were waiting for something. Realized what he had to do. He turned to Vila. He took her hands in his. They were cool and smooth, but they felt right in his grip. "Vila," he said, "I called you beautiful by mistake, but I will spend the rest of my life saying it on purpose." Vila laughed. It was the first time he had heard her laugh. It sounded like music. "Say it again, human," she whispered. Smiled, "You are beautiful." The room erupted in the clicking sound of applause, but did not hear it. He was too busy looking at the woman who had changed his life with a single question, and wondering what their future together would bring. The bonding ceremony was held 3 days later. Spent those 3 days in a blur of preparation. There were clothes to be fitted, words to be memorized, rituals to be learned. They took their ceremonies seriously and did not want to make another translation mistake. But through all the chaos, he found moments with Vila. They were not supposed to be alone together before the ceremony. It was against tradition, but Vila had never been very good at following tradition. She found ways to slip away from her attendants. She found quiet corners where they could talk. They talked about everything. Vila told him about her childhood, growing up in the shadow of her father's reputation, being expected to be perfect, never allowed to show weakness or emotion. She had felt like a statue, beautiful but empty. "Do not express feelings the way humans do," she explained. "We are taught that emotions are private, that showing them is shameful. I learned to hide everything." "But you blushed when I called you beautiful," said. Vila smiled. "That was the first time I lost control, the first time my body showed what my heart was feeling. I was embarrassed at first. Then I realized I liked it. I liked feeling something so strong that I could not hide it." Told her about his life too, growing up poor on Earth, working hard to support his family, leaving home to find opportunity in space, feeling lonely on the station, surrounded by aliens who saw him as just another human. "I used to think all aliens were the same," he admitted. "Different bodies, but all the same inside. Then I met you, and I realized I was wrong about everything." Vila reached out and touched his hand. "We were both wrong. I thought humans were simple creatures, loud and messy and ruled by emotions, but you showed me that emotions are not weakness. They are strength." "Humans are still loud and messy," said with a grin. "I know," Vila laughed. "That is what I love about you." The word hung in the air between them. Love. Neither of them had said it directly before, not like this. Turned his hand over and laced his fingers through hers. Her skin was cool and smooth. His was warm and rough. They were different in so many ways, but somehow they fit together. "I love you too," he said. "I think I started loving you the moment I made that stupid mistake. My heart knew before my mind did." Vila's eyes glistened. The violet blush appeared on her cheeks. "You really need to stop making me blush. It is very undignified for a—" "Never," promised. "I will make you blush every day for the rest of our lives." The ceremony took place in the great hall of the flagship. It was the largest room had ever seen. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into shadow. The walls were lined with thousands of, all dressed in formal robes of different colors. Blue for the elders, white for the young, silver for the council members. Stood at one end of the hall wearing a new robe of deep blue. Had explained that blue was the color of change. It meant he was becoming something new, joining a new family, starting a new life. At the other end of the hall stood Vila. She wore a robe of pure white, like snow on a mountain. Her silver skin seemed to glow from within. Her white hair was decorated with tiny crystals that caught the light. She was the most beautiful thing had ever seen. And this time he meant to say it. Elder stood between them, serving as the ceremony master. His face was solemn, but thought he saw a hint of warmth in the old's eyes. "We gather today to witness a bonding unlike any in our history," Elder announced. His voice echoed through the hall. "A human and a two different species, two different worlds, but one heart." The crowd was silent. Thousands of watched as began to walk toward Vila. His footsteps seemed very loud in the quiet hall. The walk felt endless. With each step thought about everything that had brought him here. A translation error, a blushing alien girl, 3 impossible trials, pain and fear and doubt. And now at the end of it all, love. He reached the center of the hall and stood facing Vila. Her eyes were bright with emotion. She was not hiding anything anymore. She was letting him see everything she felt. Elder spoke again. The bonding ritual requires words of commitment. Hand, speak your words. Had memorized a formal speech. It was full of traditional phrases and proper ceremonial language, but looking at Vila, he forgot all of it. Instead, he spoke from his heart. Vila, he said, 3 days ago I called you beautiful by mistake. Today I call you beautiful on purpose. Tomorrow and every day after I will call you beautiful again. Not because you need to hear it, but because I need to say it. Because it is the truth. Because you are the most beautiful person I have ever known. He paused. The hall was completely silent. I am just a human. I am not strong like warriors. I am not smart like scholars. I am not elegant like nobles. But I have something that I can give you. Something that humans have more of than any species in the galaxy. Vila's voice was soft. What is that? Hart said, humans feel deeply. We love fiercely. We hold on to the people we care about with everything we have. And I promise you, Vila, I will hold on to you. Through good times and bad times. Through joy and sorrow. Through everything that life brings us. I will never let go. Tears were streaming down Vila's cheeks. The violet blush covered her entire face. She did not try to hide it. She did not want to. Elder turned to his daughter. Vila of the line, speak your words. Vila took a shaky breath. My whole life I was taught to be perfect, to control my emotions, to never show weakness. I was told that feeling too much was dangerous, that love was just a chemical reaction in the brain. She reached out and took hands. Then you came, a human who did not know our rules, who did not care about tradition, who said what he felt without thinking about consequences. And when you called me beautiful, something inside me broke open. Her grip tightened on his hands. You taught me that emotions are not weakness. They are the most powerful thing in the universe. You taught me that love is not a chemical reaction. It is a choice. And I choose you, Han, today and every day after. I choose to love you with all the emotion I was never allowed to show. Elder raised his hands. The words have been spoken. The commitment has been made. By the ancient laws of I declare this bonding complete. The hall erupted in sound. The clicking of applause filled the air like rain on a roof. Thousands of voices spoke at once, calling out blessings and congratulations. But did not hear any of it. He was looking at Vila, only Vila. She smiled at him. That beautiful smile that he would see every day for the rest of his life. Say it again, human, she whispered. Pulled her close. He wrapped his arms around her and held her tight. She fit perfectly against him, as if they had been made to stand like this. You are beautiful, he said, and I love you. Then he kissed her. The kiss lasted a long time. When they finally pulled apart, the applause had grown even louder. Who had never shown emotion in public were smiling openly. Some were even crying. Elder approached them. His face was strange. Realized that the old was struggling with his own emotions. I was wrong about you, Han, Elder said. I thought you were a foolish human who made a foolish mistake, but you are not foolish. You are brave, and you have given my daughter something I could never give her. What is that? Asked. Permission to feel. Elder placed a hand on shoulder. Welcome to our family, son. Bowed deeply. Thank you, father. The word felt strange on his tongue, but it also felt right. The celebration lasted for hours. There was food and music and dancing. Who had never danced before tried to copy human movements. Humans who had come from the station tried to copy grace. Everyone laughed at the chaos. and Vila stood together through all of it, hand in hand. They accepted congratulations from dignitaries. They posed for pictures with council members. They answered the same questions over and over. How did you meet? It was an accident. How did you fall in love? It was not an accident. Finally, late in the night, they escaped to a quiet balcony overlooking the stars. The celebration continued inside, but out here it was peaceful. Vila leaned against shoulder. Are you happy? Looked at the stars. Billions of lights scattered across the darkness. Somewhere out there was Earth, his home, his family, a life he had left behind. But standing here with Vila, he did not feel like he had lost anything. He felt like he had gained everything. I am happy, he said. Are you? Vila smiled. I did not know what happiness felt like before I met you. Now I cannot imagine life without it. They stood in comfortable silence watching the stars. The future was uncertain. There would be challenges, cultural differences, misunderstandings, long distances, hard choices. But they would face it all together. Vila said after a while, Yes, I have been thinking about what you said, about humans feeling more deeply than other species. Is that really true? Considered the question. I think so. Humans are not the strongest we are not the most advanced or the most elegant, but we feel everything with our whole hearts, every joy, every sorrow, every love. That sounds exhausting. Laughed. It is, but it is also wonderful, because when you feel everything, you really live. You do not just exist, you experience. Vila was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I want to learn how to do that. I want to feel everything, joy and sorrow and love. I want to really live. Turned and looked at her. The starlight reflected in her dark eyes. She looked more beautiful than ever. I will teach you, he promised. Every day I will teach you how to feel. Vila smiled. And I will teach you how to be graceful, how to speak properly, how to not make translation errors. Groaned. I'm never going to live that down, am I? Never, Vila agreed. It will be the story we tell our children, how their father was too stupid to know the difference between important and beautiful. Children, the word hung in the air between them. It was the first time either of them had mentioned it. His heart swelled with something bigger than happiness, bigger than love. It was hope for a future he had never imagined. I like that story, he said softly. Vila took his hand. So do I. They turned back to the stars. Behind them, the celebration continued. Ahead of them, the universe stretched out in infinite possibility. They had started with a mistake, a single wrong word spoken in a moment of confusion. But that mistake had led them here, to this moment, to each other. And as they stood together, hand in hand, watching the stars, they both knew one thing for certain. It was the best mistake either of them had ever made.